Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of Chile Box 2.0. We're tasting this guy. It's got a very simple label in the front. 2022 JCV Carignan is basically what we're tasting today from Maule Valley. But before we get into the wine, just a few announcements. I need to wrap up the enrollment for next month right away. If you are joining us, then just go ahead and pay the invoice. If you're not, then just let me know so I can skip you and get you prepared. But I will be chasing folks starting tomorrow to kind of close out the enrollment. So just let me know either way. I just need to prep it, process all of that before next week. So I can get that all set up and ready to go. In case you haven't heard, next month's theme is going to be an island box. So by island box, I'm excluding the big ones that we've done already. So Sicily is out, Canary is out, but we're focusing on more of a smaller islands in the Mediterranean. So we're talking about Sardinia, we're talking about Corsica, we're talking about Ischia. So these kind of little all islands that shoot out in the middle of the Mediterranean, and they're delicious. So really fun box. Not finalized yet because I got one more tasting that's happening tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to finalize everything tomorrow. But there's a good chance that we may have a well, it's not a vermouth, but it's quinquina, so which is kind of like vermouth. So we may have another fortified wine in the box next month, which is always fun. So yeah. Anyways, the theme next month is island box because warm weather's coming up. I'm moving to South Carolina. Let's go to the islands. Let's think some beaches. Let's think some water. Let's think some Mediterranean ocean. So, all right. I think that's all the announcement that I have. This month we are donating 1% of our gross revenue to Beacon House. If you are interested in learning more about what they do or donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, the link is right there in the chat box. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into the wine? Excellent. Hearing none, let's get into it. We're tasting this guy. Very simple, kind of a white label, the black letter. 2022 JCV Carignan from Maule Valley is what we are tasting today. I've heard about this winery. This was actually the first time I've actually tasted their wine, and I was quite impressed with what they got going on. So I just throw it in there. Anyways, let's start with the map. Here we go. Map of Chile should look pretty familiar by now. We've been looking at it for 3 weeks now, right? We talked quite a bit about all these different wine regions stretching from north to south. This being southern hemisphere, more south we go, colder it gets, right? The driest region out of all the regions, winemaking regions, is up here in the Atacama region. There's a desert named after that as well, Atacama. Up here, a lot of pisco production that's happening. This and Coquimbo. And as you come down, this Aconcagua and Central Valley, this is where the majority of the wine production that we know from Chile happens. This is where a lot of that Bordeaux blend, a lot of Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah, Carignan, all that stuff comes from basically right here. And then as you go south, where it gets much cooler, as well as there's a lot more rain, it gets wetter down here. It's really down here. South region, particularly right here, is really, we were in Tata Valley last week, right? And then we're in Bio the first week. So this is kind of the bastion haven for all the natural winemaking that's happening in Chile. So a lot of cool kind of experimental stuff, but it's not really experimental. It's going back to really traditional old ways of Chilean winemaking. People are just going back to really old vineyards and making wines that their ancestors used to make in Chile. And just because it was so long ago and things have changed so much now that it's become cool and cutting edge and new again. But really what we're talking about is going back to the way it used to be. So if you're really talking about wanting to taste something, wine that was similar to how the wine was made, like, 200, 300 years ago in Chile, you're talking about this region right here. But, so we're in Biobío Valley first week, Itata Valley second week. Now we're moving up to Maule Valley. So we'll just continue to move up north. So now we're in Central Valley region. If you remember kind of what we talked about, Central Valley right here is where, obviously Santiago, the capital, is right here. So it's no surprise that the very first kind of initial modern day wine infrastructure, wine industry, wine trade infrastructure, which were heavily invested and built by a lot of French. And we're going to talk about that influence when we get to the producer profile of this producer. But it was all centered around Santiago and then the region around it, which is the Central Valley region. So you're talking about, this is where the first modern day Chilean wine industry was set up. And consequently, the kind of the oldest / the best, quote unquote best, most well-known kind of sites and producers of Chilean fine wines are basically all based mostly in right here in Central Valley region. Obviously, each region has its like the premium producers, but really as a whole, as a region as a whole, Central Valley is the most dense with these kind of old historic kind of oldest and the biggest kind of wineries that exist in Chile are right here. But also because of that, a lot of bulk production. By the way, I mean, we're featuring 4 kind of individual family-owned mom and pop kind of wineries of Chile. But in general, Chile is really a country where the wineries are essentially big companies. Most of them are not small, family-owned, individual things. They're basically conglomerates making a lot of. I mean, their wineries look like factories that don't necessarily look like wineries. So a lot of that production, a lot of that cheap Chile bulk production happens right here. I mean, I think Central Valley region of Chile and Aconcagua as well, but particularly Central Valley region is really akin to like Napa Valley, right? There's some of the oldest, some of the quote unquote best, some of the most established, well-known names of American names, wineries exist in Napa Valley, right? But also some of the most bulk like just a crowd mass-produced wineries, like a Gallo, for example, is also in Napa, which is the biggest wineries. Barefoot. What's the other one? Sutter Homes. Like all of that is based in Napa, right? So, and it's the same thing here in Central Valley. Most of that is based right here, particularly in the middle. We also talked about Chile having this dissection going west to east, right? So on the west, you have this Humboldt current that comes up from the Antarctica, really cold water, all that cold breeze comes in, that's right along the coast. And then there's another little kind of a mountain area, mountain range that runs through the middle. And then between that and the Aconcagua on the right is the valley region, the Central Valley region. So Central Valley is because it's the middle of the country, but even within Central Valley, there's a Central Valley between the 2 cordilleras. So in the middle, that's the it's kind of like the Napa Valley floor of the Napa Valley, right? And then the eastern part, which is along the Aconcagua, going up the foothills of it. But that middle part is obviously the warmest. Anytime you get into a valley, it's kind of like an oven, right? Because all the sun and the heat kind of sinks down and bakes into the middle. So it's the warmest part of this region, and then that's where a lot of these companies are here making mass bulk wines. But even here in Central Valley, it's divided into kind of these different regions that you see: Maipo, Chachapo, Curico, Colchagua, but all this. But really, where the fruit comes from for this is in Maule Valley, which is down here. This winery, the JCV, is actually in Casablanca Valley. So they're actually in Aconcagua region, just west of Santiago, and they have their own estate vineyards right around their winery in Casablanca Valley, which is more towards the ocean, as you can see on this map. And they're kind of known as like the premium kind of benchmark producer of Casablanca Valley. but this particular barley that we're tasting today is from the fruit comes from Maule Valley, which is down here. By the way, in case you're wondering, this Maipo Valley is you've probably heard of this at some point. I mean, it's kind of like Napa Valley of Chile, like I was saying. This is the most well-known probably valley name of all Chile regions, Maipo. So yeah, anyways, we're in Maule Valley for today. Let's talk about who makes this wine. Oops. So what I want to do is these two. It's father and son. This gentleman on the left is Thierry Villard. And then this gentleman on the right is Charlie Villard. And then you can see Charlie's name on the label in the back, Charlie Villard in the back label. It is currently run, I mean, they both work, and Thierry still plays a huge role, but it's currently run by the second generation, Charlie. It was established in 1989 by Thierry, which is his father on the left. As this is self-proclaimed, this is on their website. They call themselves First Family Premium Boutique Wine Company. I don't know how one can self-proclaim that or how you can make that claim, but anyways, they claim themselves to be Chile's first family premium boutique wine company. The Thierry, like we talked about a lot about, I was mentioning how the French were the ones who invested a lot of money into building out the infrastructure, the wine infrastructure of this country in Chile. But and Thierry here is somehow found his way here, but it actually had nothing to do with the wine itself. Thierry seems like if you go to their website, I'm gonna drop their website on the chat box. Check it out. There's a portion in there where Charlie writes about his dad's life, and sounds like Thierry has lived a very fun and interesting life. But anyway, Thierry was a Frenchman, born in France, but spent most of his life in Switzerland. Went to college in England, and at 19, he left home and to travel the world, and went to Australia for a little bit. And there's a lot of Australian influence that happens because of his time he spent in Australia. But he's left Australia to go to South America to travel, made his way to Panama by boat, and from there he worked his way down to Chile, where he met his future wife, which is Charlie's mother. And then they got married in 1972 and had a wedding in Chile, then in Paris, and then they moved to Australia, and that's where he got into wine. There's a whole story there about Thierry, but you guys should read it. It really does sound like a pretty interesting dude. Would love to have a glass of wine or a beer with him, hear about his life stories. I'm sure this guy's full of life stories. Anyways, but his son Charlie is the one who runs the winery now. He was born in Chile, so between Chilean mother and a French father. Born in Chile, studied agriculture in Chile for 3 years, then 2 years of viticulture and enology in Bordeaux. Then he worked his harvests around the world for about a decade. So he worked his first harvest in 2000 in Hunter Valley in Australia. Then he went to South Africa the next year, Bordeaux the year after. He went back to Bordeaux again in 2004. Then he came back to Chile in 2005, worked in his family vineyard with his father for a year. Then he went to Italy and then worked for a very well-known natural winemaker called La Stopa. You might have had it. Their wines are kind of everywhere in DC. They're a natural wine producer in Emilia-Romagna. So he worked a harvest there in 2005. Then he worked a harvest with the Christophe Pacalet and Marcel Lapierre in Beaujolais in 2007. Then he worked another harvest in Burgundy at Chateau de la Tour et Clos Vougeot, which is a world-renowned Burgundy producer in 2009. So needless to say, Charlie has built some chops over the years, working at some of the kind of who's and who and some of the really well-known serious names in the wine world. Today, he oversees winemaking. He came back to Chile and he works full-time in his family vineyard. He oversees the winemaking, working closely. They do have an in-house winemaker that he also works with. They make a lot of different kinds of wines. They do have another winemaker that works, Ana Maria Pacheco is her name. I could not find her picture, by the way. They're winemaker since 1997. So he's in charge of basically all the cellar operations. And then his father, Thierry, is still very much involved, but he takes care of mostly the export and import domestic markets. And then his mother takes care of all the administration and logistics of the winery. So again, like I said, in a country where majority of the wineries are pretty much companies and corporations, they are truly, Villard is a truly kind of family one winery, which is cool. All right, let's talk about what this wine is. So this is a 91% Carignan and 9% Pinot Noir. By the way, the last wine of this month, next week, is going to be a Pinot Noir from Chile. It is fucking delicious. I was really trying to source Pinot Noir from Chile because I think Pinot Noir in Chile is seeing some incredible results right now. And it's something that if you are a Pinot fan, that you should definitely go out there and try to find some more. But anyway, this has some Pinot, and then I think it shows. I think without that Pinot, there would be less of this left in the wine. I mean, Carignan can also have this kind of bright poppy flavors, but really, I think that 9%, which is not a whole lot, but just even that little bit really gives a lift to this wine, which we'll talk about when we get to tasting it. But anyways, this is a 91% Carignan, 9% Pinot Noir grown on granite and clay. Just to talk about Carignan for a second, how many of you are familiar with Carignan? Like, if you heard the name Carignan, like, I mean, we've had Carignan a few times on this wine club, but like, is that something that you are like familiar with? You can describe its like profile, what it tastes like, what that would smell like, or is that just something kind of like I've heard of Carignan? Yeah. Okay. Well, for those of you who've been around for a while, you all know how much I love Carignan. This is a much deeper. It kind of also the stylistically can range. This is a much like deeper, riper, extracted kind of a example of Carignan. You can also have Carignan that's a little more early harvested. It's much harder to farm that way, but when you harvest it a little bit earlier and then have a much lighter touch, lighter extraction, you can have really these kind of bright red berry, poppy kind of a thing. Also, there's a lot of Carignan that's being made in a carbonic maceration method, so really like bright and poppy stuff, which is delicious. But it's also we recently had Carignan because in Rioja, Carignan is called Mazuelo. So some of that very first week Rioja that we had in the Rioja month had some Mazuelo thrown in there. So we had some Carignan there already. It's also called Boval in Argentina, and it's called Carignan or Carignan in Spain. It was once kind of like a workhorse grape. I mean, one of the kind of the beautiful thing about Carignan and why it became so popular around the globe is because it has a really is capable of producing large yields. So for a long time, when the quality wasn't necessarily the kind of focal point, and it was just all about producing as much wine as you possibly can, Carignan obviously makes sense why it was very popular. But it's also one of the very first varieties that were kind of spread across from the old world and spread into a new world. It's those OG kind of the original mission varieties along Pais, which is what we had last 2 weeks, and Moscato and Carignan. Those three are really kind of like the varieties that you find in a lot of different parts of the old world. So this is all over California, all over Mexico, Argentina, Chile, obviously. So anywhere basically the old world, the Spanish and the French have kind of landed, you kind of see this Carignan kind of one out. But as these vineyards kind of really become old vineyard, their yields are getting smaller because the vines are getting much older. The true real potential of Carignan is really starting to shine in the world of Carignan. So I think these days, even though it's the Spanish origin, you mostly find it along the kind of southwestern Mediterranean coast region of France is where you find most of it widely planted there in Languedoc and Roussillon region. But you really find it pretty much everywhere. You find some in Sardinia, you find some in California, you find some in Argentina. Again, all the New World, you have some of it already. But it also played a major role in French wine market. I actually didn't know this until I was kind of doing some research on Carignan today. but it also played a major role in French wine market, as it at one point it was the most planted grape variety in France as of 1988, which is fascinating. I would have never thought Carignan was what would have been planted so much in France. But again, this is all about bulk wine, a lot of bulk production, mass-produced wines. But as the EU started a kind of aggressive vine pool scheme in the name of or in the interest of improving wine quality. So in France, I don't. It's not just in France, actually, all across the EU, but France did it the most. But a lot of EU winemaking countries did this vine pool scheme where, in the interest of planting better variety, quote unquote, better varieties, a lot of farmers are paid subsidies and money essentially to pull out these kind of older vines like Carignan that were like really large, high yielding varieties. And then Carignan was definitely the most widely affected. It dropped more than half from 167,000 hectares in 1988 in France to 95,000 hectares in 2000. So in 12 years, in just about 2 years, it shed more than like almost 60% of its entire planting in France, just to give you an idea of how widely Carignan used to be planted all across France, and then it was pulled out. Again, but it makes sense when you're talking about mass production, especially in places like Chile, right? This being one of the first mission varieties that came, and then countries that was run by a lot of these mass bulk wine production. A lot of that warm valley floor was planted with Carignan for people to kind of make bulk wines with. But as these vineyards are getting older, and in Central Valley actually for a while, I learned that a lot of Carlo Rossi earlier kind of bottlings of Carlo Rossi from Central Valley in California was also Carignan, planted with Carignan. So played a major role in a lot of kind of entry point wines that we've all drank as youths. But anyways, as these Carignan valleys vineyards get older and better, it's really it's time to show its potential. So it's not exactly the easiest variety to work with because it's got high acidity, naturally high acidity, tannins, a lot of phenolics. So you got to farm it really correctly for it to come out right. But under the careful, when it's grown carefully in the right place, it produces kind of deep, rich, red berry driven kind of wine. This one is a little more extracted. It's far much more red, darker place, but darker expression. But it also has that lively natural acidity tannin, so it can age. So wines like this can age quite a bit, which is very different from some of that kind of carbonic macerated Carignan that we've had from different parts of the world in like a southwest France. But anyways, enough of Carignan. So this is 91% Carignan, 9% Pinot, all spontaneous fermentation, native yeast. The text says this was 50% aged in French oak and then 50% in stainless steel for 9 months. But on the label here, it says it was aged in barrels for 1 year. So I don't know which one is correct. I don't know whether to trust the text sheet or whether to trust the label, but I think I'm going to go with the label. So let's just go, and because I can also see very clear evidence of some oak or barrel aging here. But yeah, so couldn't confirm that which one is necessarily true, but yeah, the text sheet and the label says true. So anyways, any questions about anything I just went over before we get into the wine? Excellent. Whoa, what is this that you put up, Mr. Corlette?
Oh, if you do a quick Google image search, you come up with a picture. I'm Maria Pacheco.
Perfect.
You change your last name.
There you go. There you go. There's Ana Maria Pacheco. Fuenzalida. Ana Maria Pacheco Fuenzalida. Oh, what a name. All right. Let's taste it. Who wants to take the appearance?
I'll take the appearance soon.
Okay, perfect. Whoa.
Hmm. I can't tell if it's clear. I think it's pretty clear, but I can't see much of anything through it. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can tell this wine is not exactly like filter fine wine. But yeah, for intents and purposes, yeah, this is not like it's so hazy and it's got like a cloudy anything like that. So I'll call this clear still. And intensity, I'm totally with you. Like it's deep. Like I can't see anything through the middle here. So I'll call this deep as well. What's the color?
I'd say ruby.
Yeah, I'll call this ruby. I think I
Touch
see
of
like
purple.
yeah, I think I see a little purple, like bluish tinge coming through, but for mostly, I'll still call this ruby. Yeah, like ruby with a bluish tint to it is what I would say. Any other observations?
Um, no,
Yep.
no petillance, no bubbles, nothing like that.
Cool,
No
cool.
deposits yet, although I haven't gotten to the bottom of the bottle yet. So,
Yep. Perfect. Great. You get to pick the next person for the notes.
uh, just below me is Julia.
Okay, Dan's gonna have to help too.
Yeah, my sense of smell is really good. So
You've been doing this for like 17 years.
I
Come
know.
on.
Keep getting better.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Oh
Sorry.
no, I'm lost without the grid.
You guys probably know this by memory.
We should, but honestly, I don't.
All right. Nose.
I mean, it's clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Michael. This is the beginning. For those of you who joined a little bit later, if you didn't catch me saying this wine does come off a little reductive upon opening. It was a little farty. So if you didn't decant it, I would say decant it, or if you just leave it in the glass, it'll go away. It'll blow off. Just beauty
Yeah,
of
we've
it.
had this open for a while, so
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, mine's already blown off quite a bit. But the very first glass that I poured was a little farty. So,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
doesn't that lead you to suspect that this was not 100% aged in barrels?
I know. So maybe, yeah, you say maybe it's 50% stainless steel. Maybe that stainless steel is what's giving that some reduction. So yeah, maybe that. Who knows?
Intensity, I feel like I get
it's
it
very
way off the
intense.
glass.
Yeah.
Also, Dan, I can't tell you how proud I am to hear you like deduce that reasoning for the reduction, and it's like most likely there's a 50% stainless steel on this wine because the reduction would happen in the barrels. Like it's fucking beautiful. Fucking
We
beautiful.
do absorb some information.
Yeah. Love it. All right, sorry. So nose, a clean intensity.
Intensity is
It's-
way off the glass.
Yeah, I mean, I would say medium plus.
Yeah, this is like I'm starting to smell it like here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, way off. Like medium plus, maybe bordering on pronounced, but it's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
expressive. Very expressive. Absolutely. Aromas. Ooh, what do you get?
I mean, I could maybe get a little in terms of florals, like maybe a little bit of, I don't know, violet.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think something like bluish, purplish kind of flower, violet. I think that's a great call. Yeah, for sure.
No green fruit.
No.
No citrus,
Citrus.
no stone or tropical
Yep.
fruit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really red and black.
Yeah.
What do you got? Tell us some fruit.
I mean, definitely blackberry. Maybe like,
I feel like I get like black plum, red plum.
Yep. Get some plums here as well. Yep, for sure.
but maybe also some like, I don't know if it's cranberry or like a black cherry or a sour cherry or something.
Yeah, I guess some of that. Like, I mean, this is kind of like bramble, that thing, where it's like the half red, half black.
Yeah.
Can't really tell if it's a red or black kind of berry situation here. That, or like we call it the other day, it's like a black raspberry kind of a deal. Where you get both of those things.
Yeah.
I definitely get some red fruit on here as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like mostly black, but there's definitely some red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, I don't know if any of you guys are Zinfandel fan, it's kind of like the Zinfandel has that little bit of red and a blackberry thing going on both at the same time. Like there's a similar vibe to this thing. I get both the black, mostly. I agree with you. I think I get a lot of plum, I get a lot of cherry, blackberry, that kind of thing. But on top of that, they're just like a little bit, not as like low base note, a little bit higher treble note,
Yeah.
fruit note here, which is that kind of red berry that I'm detecting. So cool. Character of the fruit.
Fresh, ripe.
Yeah, super ripe, super fresh. Yeah, I mean, this is very ripe fruit. Like, I mean, it's like peak of like almost like turning into like maybe overripe, but like, yeah, very, very ripe for sure. Any herbaceous, any herbal?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think I get any herbal. I definitely
neither.
get some like I think I get some black pepper.
Little spice, okay.
Just a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. Gives you a little pepper. I get like just a ever so slight tinge of like not necessarily green, but something like, I don't know, like maybe eucalyptus, maybe like there's something a little bit savory here. It's just not just the fruit, but it's not green. It's not grass or it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
or anything like that. But yeah, something a little bit. Maybe it's the pepper that you were detecting as well, but something savory here. Any minerality?
Not really that I can
Not
get.
that I can smell.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, especially where it gets a little bit harder with the reductive wines or wines that show some reduction. Like, and there's a famous kind of a dispute or debate that always happens. Like when we talk about Chablis, for example, Chablis minerality. Everybody talks about the Kimmeridgian soil, all that mineral marine life, like the seashells, millennial-old seashells in the soil of a Chablis. Is that what's giving it this kind of like smoky minerality? Or is the fact that it's such a like a non-oxidative reductive winemaking that takes place in Chablis, that reduction is what gives it that kind of like, minerality and smoky kind of a thing. So it could be the reduction in the wine, but like I do get a little bit of like the smoke, like a smoky kind of like a mineral thing here. But again, it could be reduction. It could be the fact that this was grown in granite, but I do get something here. But yeah, not overly like super minerally, but I just want to note that I do get some of that. And the only way for me to really tell would be, either decant it or let this just kind of sit out, let all the reduction completely blow off, and then see if I get any minerality or any rockiness there. But you say you guys had your wine open for a while, so maybe it's just reduction that I could. Any secondary?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I could get like on the oak side of things, like I don't get vanilla or any of that, but I get maybe a little bit on the coffee or like chocolate side of things. I don't know.
Little toast? Yeah. So to me, so this is when we're talking about this oak, we're talking about really new oak.
Okay.
But also neutral oak, when the wines have been aged in barrels, there's certain aromas you get. It's not necessarily these, but that like you can tell that it's been in barrels. And also like when they say neutral, we're talking about essentially third fill and above. But even by third fill, you can still kind of get little, or it depends on, obviously depends on the barrel. We can sometimes still get some of that oak, like a new oak aromas and flavors still left over, versus something that like, if they've been using these barrels for like the last 20 years, like that's a completely different story, but like to me, this wine has a very clear evidence of barrel aging. Just even smelling it, I can tell that this wine has spent some time in barrels. A lot of that is just kind of the smell gets a little bit rounded, and kind of what you were talking about. Maybe what I was saying about the smoke and reduction.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this kind of like toast, kind of some sort of like a thing that's going on here. But even beyond that, yeah, there's definitely some the barrel evidence here. I won't go as far as calling any of these like warm spices, because to me, this is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very clear
exactly.
sign of new oak, but it's
Yeah.
not. So.
Yeah.
Any tertiary?
Real quick, when they put the wine in the barrel, do they toast the barrel typically?
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends. Yeah. Depends on the winemaker and depends on what they want. But it's never like charred like bourbon barrels. If anything, it's just like a very light toast.
Okay.
Yeah.
No tertiary. I don't
Yeah,
think.
no tertiary, still very fresh, young. So we're agreeing that we're getting some secondary here, some barrel thing, but really mostly we're talking about right here. The primary is where we live. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Might pick on Kelly because I haven't seen her around Wine Club in a while.
Cheunkel?
That's my code name.
All right, Cheunkel.
Okay. We didn't do a great job with our decanting here, but this wine is dry.
This wine is dry. So I actually happen to have tech information on this one. This is just to help you calibrate. By the way, just so you know, most human beings do not detect sugar under 5 grams per liter. And this wine's RS level is 2.71 grams per liter. So we're talking about like bone dry. There's like absolutely no sugar on this wine. But again, for those of you who think this wine may be sweet, it's because there's so much fruit. I mean, it is just like brimming, that medium plus almost pronounced, intensity of this ripe fruit. And then all that plays tricks on our brain because, human brains, we've all been evolutionarily designed to associate smells of really ripe fruit with sugar and something sweet. So we may think that this wine is sweet, but an actual objective lab data, there's no sugar on this wine whatsoever. So bone dry. Acidity.
Medium. Maybe?
Yeah, it's like I'm right at the cusp of medium. Like I almost want to call it medium plus. I can definitely see if this at medium. If this was like a little bit cooler, my wine, I didn't have a chance to chill my wine. But if this is a little bit chilled out, probably squarely gone to medium plus. But right now, it's like right on that cusp between medium to medium plus. But I'm gonna call it medium plus just for me. But yeah, just higher in the medium, lower in the medium plus. That's what I call it. Tannin.
Yeah, I would go medium plus.
Medium plus? You feel that much tannin? I mean, medium plus would be like we'd be sitting and going, like it would be very, very tannin. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like all up in my tongue. No. Okay, just me.
I don't go that high. I mean, I'll call
No?
this about like, I mean, there's definitely some tannin here. Not super high, but like I'll call this about medium, lower in the medium. Is about what
Okay.
I'll call this. Yeah, but I'll call this about medium. It's definitely there, really fine. It's not like really rustic, chewy. I think like last week's Paisa was a more tannic than this one, actually.
No, I did not
We
have
called
that.
it medium plus, yeah, last week. So yeah, I'll call this about medium.
Okay.
Medium level tannin, and then alcohol.
I would go again, medium plus.
Call a percentage. What do you think this is? If you have to guess.
13.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little
13?
hot,
5? No.
but not super high. Like I was gonna say, like, yeah, I was gonna say like 13.5 myself. I mean, it says 14.1 on the label, but it doesn't treat like 14.1. And I also do have a lab data on this, which is a 13.5. So right there. It's a medium. Call that medium. Body.
I would go with medium.
Yeah, I mean it's like a 2%. It's not nothing, but it's not like super viscous or heavy. Move to it on to talk about flavor intensity.
I mean, I feel like it's very, I would say medium plus.
Yeah. Again, just like on the nose. I mean, if there's anything, whether you like this sort of wine or not, there's no denying the intensity of the aromas and flavors here. I mean, it is very, very expressive. Right. So I call this medium plus as well. Again, borderline pronounced on the intensity for sure. And do you agree with all the things that Julia and Dana called out, or is there anything else that sticks out for you?
I mean, I feel like I'm struggling to taste as much freshness. Like, I think they called like violet and fresh fruit, and I feel like I can.
Are you getting a cooked fruit? Are you getting dried fruit? If you're saying,
I mean, I think it's not cooked though.
like jammy, really, right?
Yeah, like kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Like
I
it
mean,
doesn't taste fresh.
The fruit character is really right. I mean, again, this is at the Central Valley floor, the warmest part of Chile, and yeah, the fruit character here for sure is very, very ripe. Like I said earlier, maybe it's like just on the borderline of being over the ripe. This is not like peak of the ripeness. It's on the back end of that ripeness. So like if you call this like jammy, even little cooked, I can kind of see that. But yeah, it's to me it's still holding on. Like it still hasn't lost that like fresh fruit nature of it. It's just very ripe version of it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going kind of like the violet. They call that mostly black fruit with a touch of red fruit on top, and then you're calling the character of the fruit to be a little bit riper, maybe even jammier. Yeah. Okay. We're debating this part. What do you think about this? So there's something savory here to this wine, and then quality. What do you think about that part?
I mean, I could get the peppery notes for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that little turn into a pepper for sure.
Yeah, I don't get the whetstones.
Yeah, it wasn't the whetstone to me. Again, I'm getting less of it on the palate than I did on the nose. But to me, again, this is maybe a function of reduction blowing off.
Yeah.
Like there's something smoky, a little bit smoky about this wine. And then I think it just maybe the reduction that I was getting. But on the palate, I'm getting much less of it than I did on the nose. So yeah, and then but there's definitely just even the mouthfeel of it, like just how round this wine is. Like it's not very like sharp and jagged, right? It's just kind of soft, velvety, and round. And a lot of that is just a sign of the oak aging. Whether you call that a toast or some sort of that kind of thing that Julia was talking about, but there's definitely just even a textural reasons, like the textural evidence of this wine having gone through some barrel aging as well. Cool. Anything else?
I mean, maybe even kind of going back to that, like almost like the chocolate.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I can see a little cocoa nib kind of thing. Yeah, like raw cocoa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Also, this is something I'm noticing on the palate because you obviously can't smell bitterness, but there's some phenolic bitterness here. If you sit with a wine, especially towards the end of your finish, the back end of the palate, there's just a touch of bitterness, and that's just phenolics. And Carignan is just naturally high in acid and tannin, just these phenolics. So if you don't do a light touch, and it's not a light touch Carignan, this is a much fuller, deeper touch Carignan. Again, you can oftentimes find these kind of little bit of bitterness coming through. It's not necessarily bad, just because there's so much fruit on here. It's kind of like the Negroni effect, right? Like all that sugar and the sweetness gets balanced out by the bitterness of the Campari, right? It's that balance for me. Like if this wine didn't have a whole lot of fruit, this wasn't this ripe and brimming with the expressive fruit, and then there's all this phenolics that's coming through, then it would seem like out of place. I'm like, why is this bitter? It's weird. But because it has so much of that ripe fruit, having some of that phenolic bitterness still seems very much in balance, is what I'm trying to say.
Can
right.
I ask a question?
Yeah.
We're both getting like, we are just, it feels almost like tropical, or like Nora said, like pineapple-y, like is that the phenolic that we're tasting? The phenolic, like it's
like when you open a can of pineapples and you
Oh, yeah?
the juice in the bottom.
yeah, it's like and I'm sure it's obviously not tropical fruit, but I don't know what it is. I was wondering if it's possible that it was that, but that wouldn't really be bitter, I guess.
Yeah. No, when I say phenolic, it's like bitterness. Phenolics is like, it's not necessarily on its own, it's not necessarily very pleasant. It's like it's like green tea. It's like the saps. It's like the tannin. But yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, it's just like
Different kind.
to me, it doesn't strike me as a tropical.
I smelled it as eucalyptus on the nose. Like that was what I was getting, is that sort of eucalyptus. But I mean, I don't know what eucalyptus tastes like, but there's like something that's like not red, not green. And like what we keep defaulting to is tropical, which doesn't make sense, obviously, in a red wine, but there's
Right.
something there's some
I
other
mean,
flavor that we can't identify.
So I was going with it earlier. It's like earlier when we were smelling it with Julia and Dan, I had called out some of that kind of like mentally eucalyptus. That like to me, there's something savory here that is green, that is not a green like cut grass, like green parts of a plant, but savory. So I think we're talking about a similar thing here, but there's definitely something kind of like herbaceous, savory to this wine. That's not Piersy. And I'm also having a hard time. I'm like, it's just like it's so much fruit here that it's like hard to cut through all of that to kind of see what it is. But yeah, like I do get some of that kind of like herbal, maybe like licorice, mint, menthol kind of a thing, just a touch of it in there, just some savory notes. So I think we're talking about the same thing, but I don't know.
Well, I just poured myself more that was decanted and slightly chilled, and it was a very different experience.
Okay. Tell us more.
It's much, I think, smoother. Like, like I'm getting it's much more like rounded. I'm getting less of the like overwhelm. I think maybe it wasn't. It just hadn't like all blown off, and it was still like very tight.
Okay.
And it's like much nicer now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and then so speaking also of phenolics, again, this is something that the grid doesn't point out, but the texture of this wine is, to me, is really nice. There's like kind of, it's like a round, velvety, it's like just a warm hug.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these like ripe poppy fruit and good acid and ripeness here, but like it's just like very soft, velvety on your tongue, and it's just like the texturally really, really pleasant. I'm
getting that now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Length, finish.
I would still say that the finish is medium plus. Still getting a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps going. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. Yeah, I'm going all the way too long, but yeah, I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. All right, bring it home for us. How good is this wine? Justify it. And would you age it?
Well, I'm gonna say this is very good. We had a lot of medium to medium plus. I think it's got a lot, there's a lot there to stand up. So I think you could definitely age this.
Yeah, I mean, let's go through it. Do you think this wine is balanced?
I think once you open it up a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think this wine is very well balanced.
Mhm.
I do think that reduction immediately first caught me, but you know, that blows off. So yeah, I think all around, I think this wine is very much well balanced. Concentration. We call it medium plus to pronounce on the nose, medium plus to pronounce on the palate. So we're talking about quite high intensity, right? And then complexity, we call some flower, we call red fruit, black fruit, some sort of savory kind of eucalyptus mint from Kirsten. We call some of the smoky, again, it may be reduction, but maybe some minerality, signs of some minerality. But then we also have the secondary of the oak aging. You call out some cocoa nibs and things like that. So we're hitting both primary, secondary, a few other things. No tertiary yet. So what would you call that?
Very good.
I'll call that like, yeah, medium, high in the
medium.
medium. Yeah, lower the medium plus, somewhere in there, right? And then the length, we call it medium plus. Right. So when you look at all of that, it's balanced. We're talking about almost pronounced intensity, medium to medium plus in complexity, and then medium plus length. So when you take average of all of that, we're landing somewhere between actually not even good at very good. We're landing somewhere between very good and outstanding. But it's not quite squarely into pronounce and all of that. So I would still call this very good, but we're very much in the kind of just past the very good territory of the scale. So I'll call this very good. I agree with that call. Would you age this?
Yes.
Tell me why and how long.
Well, how long? I don't know. You said at the top of the call that these wines can typically be aged well. So that was my first clue. But it's got all the complexity and like the big flavors there that would stand up for a while. So like maybe 5+ years, 5 years.
Agreed. I mean, so first you got to have a structural component, right? We're talking about tannin and or acid. We called almost medium plus, landed on medium, somewhere between medium plus. I called it medium plus, you called it medium acid. And then the tannin, we called it medium tannin. So between medium plus acid and medium tannin, like decent backbone. And then the second part is complexity and intensity. This does not lack in intensity. This has so much primary going on here that as this wine ages, a lot of that primary will still be holding. And then a lot of that will be switching over to a tertiary non-fruit things, adding more complexity to the wine. So now we'll be hitting primary, secondary, and tertiary, so increasing the complexity. And to me, this wine is not just about freshness. There's a lot of things already going on. And then that kind of like different layers of it is what makes this wine interesting. So the fact that by aging it, adding even more potential complexity to it, I think it would only make this wine better. And given all of that, yeah, I agree with your call. I think this can easily age for a 5, maybe going up to 8 is what I would call this one. Any questions? Any disagreements? Any concerns?
It's fucking delicious. It's so good. I only have like this much left and I'm so sad about it.
Glad you like it.
I made like a turkey stuffing kind of casserole and mashed potato. We did like basically Thanksgiving dinner with it, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. And
Nice.
also, everybody wants me to make that dinner again
And
in
the
like
kids
2
will
days.
have
Now you
But
just
yeah,
have
it
to
was
do Thanksgiving.
perfect.
Yeah, great. Excellent.
Is
Excellent.
we can probably get
Uh,
you some more of this if you want.
Yeah. Did anybody else try this with a different pairing that worked or did not work? You guys are just pounding wine.
Yeah,
It
we
goes
didn't
well with
we didn't
chocolate.
have it with food, but I could see how it would be good with food.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
This-
good without food, but
Yeah. This even with
Well, and
cheese,
it
I think.
just keeps getting better and better as it opens up.
Yeah.
Like we did decant it for maybe like 15 minutes or so before we no. Like, but it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Good. Good. Good. Any other questions, comments? Did anybody not like this one? Did anybody not care for this one? Just out of curiosity. Interesting.
I'm a little in.
Tell me more.
It might be just my bottle, but it's a little the kind of smoke funky aftertaste is a little too much for me.
Mm. Okay. Did you decant it? When did you open it?
Only about 20 minutes before the call, and I just
Okay.
decanted it. But it's been sitting in the glass now for I've half an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Still.
definitely up, but it's still that kind of smokiness is still there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's something going on in this one. Again, I can't pinpoint whether it's reduction. I can't pinpoint if just the phenolics of Carignan. I don't know what it is, but there's something. I totally agree. There's something that is going on here. There's like a little of that smoky, savory, phenolic bitterness. That's going on here besides fruit. But yeah, I don't necessarily find it offensive. I actually do think it's kind of like interesting balance to all that really ripe, expressive fruit. But yeah, I can see that.
I agree. If that wasn't present at all, it would be just kind of too much of a juice bomb thing. But for me, it's maybe like 10% too much.
Too much. Okay, got it.
Back end, and
Okay.
might be bottle variation, might be who knows, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm definitely getting it on mine too. Maybe yours is even more, but yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyone else? Cool. So another reason I put this in there was not only is it I found this wine delicious, but if you do remember some of the other Carignans that we've featured on the wine club, a lot of it has been from Languedoc-Roussillon region. And a lot of that has been very light touch Carignan. So really red berry, really poppy, just brimming. Some of them more actually carbonic. So I just want to showcase that it is also possible, kind of like Pais, like what we saw in the first week versus second week, that it is possible with the Carignan to kind of bridge this or have this breadth of style. So you can both have that kind of carbonic, poppy, bright, really just only red fruit driven kind of Carignan, but you can also have this like the deep, dark, inky kind of stuff. Not obviously not as deep and inky and big as like say like Zinfandel or like Merlot or anything like that, but this is clearly a very different style than what a lot of Carignan that we've had. Cool. Let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? $26, $25. I mean, we called it 5 to 8 year potential. Kind of benchmark producer from Casablanca, which is most well-known sub-region of Chile. Called it very good. It's somewhere between very good and outstanding. Yeah, 25, 29, 28, 30, 30, 28. Well, this
26-ish.
26-ish. This is all making me know. Because Again, this is also Chile. This is why I love Chile. This is $23.50 on a retail shelf. So for $23, $24, 5 to 8 year, aging potential, drinking beautifully right now.
20.
Are we gonna be able to get enough of this in Case Club? Because I'm gonna need to buy this.
There should be. Yeah. So again, I mean, this is the beauty of Chile. Like you can find some serious gems. You get unbelievable value amount of a lot of wine per dollar. Pound for pound, I think Chile delivers some of the best quality in the world. If you ask me, there's a lot of shit coming out of Chile too. But if you're willing to dig a little bit deeper and do your homework, you can find some fucking gems in Chile. So cool. Any questions? Anything else? All right. Well, hearing none, I'm going to stop the recording.